call this meeting to order. Can we take roll call, please?
Ms. Atkins?
Here.
Mr. Bach?
Here.
Mrs. Peterson? Mrs. Sandow? Mr. Sorensen?
Here.
Mr. Sturm?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here. Approval of the May 19th, 2026 agenda. Do we have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second. Second. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Commendations, good news.
All right. Do you have the present? Yep, she does. Perfect. So first thing is we have the Nelson Foundation and Excellence Teaching Awards. So they give out 5 awards every year, and usually is 3 to CB Public and then 2 to Lewis Central. And Pat, in some years, it depends how many people are nominated. Some years it's been 4 and 1. Some years we've had 3. But we had 2 winners this year. One was Evan Jones, she's a 5th grade teacher at Titan Hill, and then Kelly Hall is a special ed teacher at the high school. So both of those very deserving. One of the cool things is we probably had 15 of our recipients. We had by far the most recipients, past recipients there between us and Council
I saw
Bluffs.
that.
So,
Yeah.
so I mean, they keep showing up. So it's a good dinner. Show up, and then they give each one of them gets a check for $10,000. So it's awesome. So thank you to the Nelson family for continuing to do that year after year. Next one I have. I was wondering to change it there, but not on mine because I have to click it. So the Noon Rotary. So Noon Rotary also does a recognition. They recognize 1 teacher and 1 high school senior from each one of the schools, and they actually do every school in the city. So it's St. Albert, TJ, AL, Heartland Christian, and they do Iowa Western as well. So our recipient this year was Carlos Adoris, and she is actually retiring at the end of this year. So she was like overwhelmed when we told her that she was going to get it. So, and then Kate Gravy is a senior. She's graduating. She's going to Loyola University in Chicago. I think political science and something else. So 2 very deserving individuals. Next, we have the Hawkeye 10 Art Show. We had several students, Best of Show, Emma Bruno, Jalen Walker, Emlyn Speck, and then certificates of artistic excellence, Emma Bruno, Dalton Hadaway, and Michaela Rector. So congratulations to them. And we are working still getting the new conference to have a art show as well. So, and then hopefully a city show as well. So we're going to go down that route. All Iowa 8th grade honor band. We had 6 participants in that. Logan Jorgensen, Danica McLean, Colby Upson, Daphne Starr, Jax Davis, and Emma Stain. So we actually had our middle school band concert on Monday night. I got to see the 6th grade and they had to run, but it always just floors me. Like our 6th grade band sounds better than some high school bands. Like it's amazing. And part of it is I think we had 73 kids in 6th grade on that stage, and some of the other high schools around here might have 18 in their entire high school. So the sound is it's phenomenal. So next we have middle school and high school students that were published in the Right Touch. So middle school we had 6 individuals, high school we had 4. See the picture up there. Next we have the senior awards night. I did want to highlight several things that I thought really cool. So 4,729 credits were earned by the class of 2026. That is the most earned by a single class ever in Lewis Central's history. So if you guys see big bills coming through for Iowa Western classes, it's because of the 29 seniors earned Iowa Western certificates in nursing, welding, and plumbing. We had 22 in nursing, 2 in plumbing, and 5 in welding. And then we had 22 associate's degrees. And then 53 students received academic letters, which means they had a GPA of 3.6 or above. And then I just want to point out they have some different awards too. Former board member and president Noreen Scheffel was actually a Hall of Fame inductee last night by the Education Foundation. So first board member, I believe, to get inducted, so you guys all have a chance, okay?
And I'm just gonna throw out there that before she was a board member, she spent probably 15 years or close to it, PTA, PTO, whichever it was at that time,
Right.
and as president, and was very active even before being a
As
board
a
member,
volunteer,
so,
yep.
yeah.
Okay, next, I think that's, well, yeah, next we have Boys State Track Qualifiers, so we had, 7 events, and then, or 8 events, sorry, 8 events, and you can see the participants up there. Boys track, girls track will leave this Wednesday, and they all run on Friday, or Thursday, so if you go to the girls, I think the boys and girls run together at state.
I think so.
I think so.
At the same time, yep.
Yeah. And then girls, also had, 8 qualifying, as well, events. Okay, and that's it. Another thing I wanted to point out outside of the presentation was, we just got word today, and I got to send an email out. We had 2 students in the elementary, Karis McCart and Calvin Fisher, both 3rd graders. They both scored in the top 2% in the nation in math.
Oh, cool.
So they both qualified for, a kind of a, it's provided by the federal government, but it's a national math program, and for the next 10 years, they can, get they have a lot of different services that are open up to them, including different STEM, camps and stuff throughout the nation, and those types of things are open up to them.
That's amazing.
But it's, they scored the top 2%, 2 of them, so, super cool. That's awesome.
All right, any other commendations, good news? Okay, then we will move on to comments and suggestions. This is the first portion of our meeting where we open the floor to any comments directed towards the board. We'll give it a couple minutes here. Nothing? Okay. Then we will move on to consent agenda. Do we have any updates for personnel?
Yes, there are quite a few.
So a couple I wanted to, point out, if you. Let's see, that's fine, okay, so if you look, down in letter I, Mike Hartenhoff, he was, promoted from a mechanic to a fleet manager, and then David Williamson has been promoted from bus driver to transportation director. And then is Summer not on here yet?
We're waiting on background checks.
Oh, the background checks aren't done yet. We did end up, offering, and it was accepted, a position for Anna Bames' position as executive administrative assistant here at the district office, and that would be Summer Neff, was, offered the position for that role.
LC grad.
Yep, LC grad, yep.
All right, then do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandow?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yeah. Reports, 6.01, curriculum instruction report. Dr. Hart.
Okay, I am passing out our FastBridge data. This is nearly complete for this year, but what you'll see in your packet, the first page is last year's literacy data. Second page contains this year's literacy data. as I get going in the presentation, I'll tell you, it's not an exact year-to-year measurement, but I'll explain that in a minute. And then the third page is last year's math, and then the final page is this year's math. So I'm going to talk you through a few of the things as I look at these reports. Obviously, you can look at this in more depth later. But I'll just review some of this, highlight areas that are strengths and growths, point out some places where I'm seeing some just trends and some things we want to keep an eye on, provide some context, and then just share some ongoing things that we're doing and next steps. So the first thing I want you guys to think about is that what we're looking for in that fall, winter, spring, the goal is always 80%. 80% means kids are performing at or above benchmark, which is grade level expectations. So the goal is always 80%. It's sometimes a high bar. We had looked earlier this year at some area school districts, and there's a few that are hitting that 80, 90%, but it's a pretty high bar, but that's still the goal for us. That's how we know our tier 1 instruction is working, is that 80% of our kids are meeting benchmark. You'll see there's another column that talks about fall to winter, fall to spring growth. That measurement is, are those students who began below benchmark catching up? So it's an important indicator because we want to know if the kids who are behind, like, is the intervention, are the supports that we're putting in for those kids who have some gaps, is it working for us? And then you'll see there's the last 2 columns on each page are maintained. And so that means the kids who were benchmark at one point in time, are they staying at benchmark? So are we maintaining those who are at benchmark? So a couple things to think about as you look at that. So a few things, growth is measuring like acceleration, and then that maintenance is measuring stability for us. An important thing to note, you'll see on the 25-26, there's some blank columns, and that's because the system won't give us that data until the screening window completely closes out. So it'll be about another week before we have some of that data, so you don't have that to look at tonight. So a couple things I want you to think about as we look at the literacy data. So at Titan Hill this year, they switched assessments. I'll show you where you can still see some year-to-year data if you want. But initially we were doing, it's called CBM, and that's a oral reading fluency test. So it's measuring some very foundational skills, like their decoding skills, their reading fluency. It was identifying a lot of kids. We were having a hard time providing intervention for all of those kids, so a decision was made to move to a reading assessment. A reading is a broader measure of how we're doing. It's looking at vocabulary, comprehension. So it's just a different test. So you can't go back necessarily and look at 2nd through 5th grade and compare them to last year. If you did want to do that, they still take the test. We're just not using that as what the screening data is for intervening. If you still want to look at that, if you look on the second page and the far right-hand side, we did still include that data. So if you wanted to look year to year, you could see it in that far column. Okay, so here's some strengths. You can see we have some of our strongest literacy movement in K through 2. So if you look at kindergarten in the fall, 59% of our kids were proficient in literacy, and by the spring, 70%. I think that's really exciting and something that really should be celebrated. That's a huge, huge gain in kindergarten. And if you look at last year, you can do a year-to-year comparison on that one. But even looking from last year they started at kindergarten, now it's not cohort, but just kindergarten class, 46% proficient, in the end, 51%. If you look at the cohort, well, we can't look at the cohort because we didn't have preschool data, but still, good growth there in kindergarten. 1st grade too, we started at 42% proficient, which isn't great, but by the end of the year, grew to 57%. So I think that growth is still significant. And again, 2nd grade is another place where there were some significant gains, from 54% to 67%. I would say one of the biggest reasons for that jump in those particular grades is because we started doing UFly. We talked about that a little bit before in here, but it's very foundational, phonics-based, very explicit instruction. So teachers have started implementing that, and I think that's where we can see some of that growth happening in K2. We're also doing a really good job of maintaining, so if you look across the board, many grades maintain benchmark, so that's that, almost last column there, you can see we're 87%, 94% in one column, so the students who are already successful are generally continue to remain successful. That's really, really exciting. Okay, so here's some watch areas. There's just some inconsistencies when we look at acceleration. So for example, if we look at third grade, and this would have been fall to winter growth, again, we don't have the fall to spring, but like third grade, we were only at 10% of kids who grew and met benchmark, only 10% more. Fourth grade, 8%, fifth grade, 7%. So it's just an area for us to think about. And then also as we go into the upper grades, this is still literacy, we're plateauing. Seventh grade and eighth grade, you can look across the board there. Winter in seventh grade was 62%, the same in spring. Eighth grade, 67%, touch of a drop by the spring at 66%. And then fifth grade trends, as you look at fifth grade, that's something I think is important to take a look at because we started at 66 proficient, then we dropped to 55, and we never came back up and got any higher than what we started the year at, so 60%. So I just think that's a place where we need to ask some questions and see if people have the support that they need, see if curriculum is being implemented the way it's intended to, but it's just a little bit of a flag where I just think we need to ask some good questions. So here's some, just some insights, next steps with literacy. So as I look at this data, I think this reinforces the importance for having a strong tier 1 literacy curriculum and instructional practices, because as you can see, it becomes very challenging to intervene your way out when things maybe aren't as strong with what we're doing day to day in the classroom. It just becomes really, really taxing. So it's important to have that strong tier 1. Again, that instructional consistency, because if you look from, K through 2, we're seeing some really nice gains, and then we're seeing some drop-offs in other places. So again, just some good things to think about is like, what do some instructional practices look like where things are moving, and what might we want to duplicate there in some other areas? Thinking about that foundational skills alignment, and then just that vertical coherence across grade levels are important conversations. So as you guys have heard too, our ongoing district work is that literacy curriculum review process. We're currently in the process of identifying a new curriculum to use. The state's pretty much come out and said what we're using, essentially K-8 is not something that we can use anymore because that's considered balanced literacy. So they really are pushing us to move in the direction of structured literacy, which is what UFLI is. So it'd be more of a tier 1 curriculum that's science of reading, structured literacy. We're also doing a lot of things too at the district level, including DLT, with just highlighting what are some high leverage literacy practices and having discussions about what that looks like in classrooms and how we'll collect some data on that. So a long-term goal obviously is to have a strong core where instructional meet the needs of most of our kids, and then we can provide that targeted intervention, but hopefully that targeted intervention is for smaller groups of kids than what's happening right now. So let me do math real quick and then I'll take questions from you guys. So if we look at math, and again, you might want to look at the very last page here, but if we look K through 8 at the very bottom there, you can see we're relatively stable across the board. So if you look at the bottom for fall, we were 66% proficient, winter 63, spring 64. Some places where there's some stronger performance, second grade went from 58% proficient in the fall all the way up to 71% proficient in the spring. And then sixth grade, their spring benchmark, 70%. So again, some really exciting data points there. We're getting really close to 80%. That feels really good. Because if you go back and look at, years prior, we just weren't quite as close. So that's exciting to see those numbers that high. Most grade levels are kind of remaining the low to mid 60%. So to me, this is just showing we've got some more consistency happening here district-wide. It's still maybe not where we want to be, but a little bit more consistency. Some places just to watch, math, first grade, if you look at that fall to winter growth, we're only at 10%. Fifth grade was only at 6%. And then sixth grade was 12%. Areas, again, that I think, we need to ask some questions. And again, to me, this goes back to what does the implementation of the curriculum look like? Do people need some more support with learning around the materials? Those kinds of things. But if we look at a couple different grade levels, we see some drops from what things looked like at the beginning of the year till the end. Kindergarten came out at 72% proficient, and we ended up at 65% proficient. First grade went from 67 to 53%, and then seventh grade from 71 to 64%. So kind of moving in the opposite direction in some of these grade levels. So here's a couple insights and next steps on math. Some opportunities to strengthen is just that instructional consistency. We've spent a lot of time talking about literacy and literacy practices and developing things around literacy. We haven't had as many conversations about what's just great math instructional practices. Another thing is sometimes it can be a little bit like pulling teeth to get people to support with what does implementation look like, and like collecting data on implementation of resources, because people are busy and we have a lot of things being asked for us. But part of it for me of monitoring the implementation is to be able to have answers so it doesn't get to this point where we're at the end of the year and we're saying, why did this happen? But if we've got some implementation data, then we've got something to go back to and to be able to say, hey, we noticed that this part of the curriculum was really tough and challenging for teachers, or this part just wasn't being implemented in classrooms. So that's part of it too. Again, I think sometimes at certain parts of the year, there might be some frustration with walkthroughs and people are coming through and they're collecting a lot of data, but to me, this is part of why you collect the data, is just to get some of the answers and to hopefully be able to catch some things and provide some supports as it comes. So ongoing focus for the district is just a continued emphasis on strong that tier 1 math instruction, following through on that implementation support, that PLC work, and just some more just monitoring of what's happening in classrooms, again, so we can support and provide whatever that support might need to be. So I think this is my last slide, but just district-wide, when we think about some themes I think that are emerging from when you look at all of this data, but that consistent core instruction is so critical, because I think as you can see, if we find ourselves in a situation where we're needing to provide intervention and support those who already are behind, it taxes the system quite a bit. So we really want to focus on getting that tier 1 really strong. Maintenance, students are already successful, are generally staying successful. I think that's a highlight for us here at Lewis Central. The earlier that we can intervene and support students, the better. I think we're seeing some variation across grade levels in regards to, consistency. And then just that system coherence really matters, whether we're thinking about curriculum or the actual instructional pieces, intervention, how we're monitoring intervention, like it all comes together and it all works together, and is hopefully supporting students for their individual growth. Okay, this is the last one. So just final reflection. I think the data shows some encouraging progress in several areas. Early literacy, I am very excited about that. Like there's some very noticeable gains in foundational skills, and I think that should be applauded. System stability overall, again, the benchmark performance is remaining pretty consistent in a lot of different places. But then just some ongoing, I think, critical work is that this data reinforces a lot of critical work that we're doing is working to accelerate that growth for students who are below benchmark, and then just that instructional consistency. So what's the high quality experiences for all kids throughout the district? So there's a lot of information thrown at you. You have a lot of information at your fingertips, but what questions do you have for me?
Do you think that it's been a very long time since I was in the classroom and remember what was taught at what age? Is some of that content related, where the skills are more difficult that they're learning, whether it be, especially in math, I guess, are those areas that are more challenging? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, if you're learning fractions in our kids, are they struggling with that particular thing, or is it a bigger, wider area across the board?
I was gonna ask, like, does sixth grade from seventh grade do a major change? Like, is sixth grade almost a review from fifth so much, and then they jump into seventh? That just seems to be where the biggest dive was, and then eighth grade kind of levels, like they lose it from sixth to
Yeah.
seventh somewhere?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think it's maybe less sometimes about the skills. Sometimes I look at this data and I'm like, what maybe supports do we need to provide with professional learning in certain places? Because, and again, we've got really good teachers. This is why it's always hard to share data, because I don't want anybody to feel like it's personal, because we've got phenomenal teachers.
Let me clarify
Yeah.
that I
Yeah,
absolutely
but
am
no,
not taking anything away from
I'm
teachers.
prefacing that to say.
Absolutely.
I think that there's pockets sometimes where you might have some new staff and just thinking about what does it look like to support them? Because there's a grade level where both literacy and math, the data is pretty low, and it just makes me wonder about, are there newer teachers on that grade level? So that's where I go to, instead of necessarily like, hey, maybe it's a specific
Content.
skill or content that's coming up.
Okay.
And then that's a good question, and it's one we have a lot about, those transition years. And
Yeah.
because it's not just Lewis Central, you see it other places too. When you transition into a new building, you often see a dip. And you'll often see a dip too in the fall regardless. So if you did want to look at cohort data, if you look at like the spring of one class from 24-25, it wouldn't be surprising to see a dip. Let's see, so for example, fifth grade would have ended, well, that's not a good example. Fourth grade would have ended, and now I'm looking at the oral reading fluency, so it's the far left side, 57%. So let's see, those fourth graders were then, no, I'm looking at it backwards. Okay, fourth graders in the spring, 43%. They came in the fall. Well, they jumped, so that was a bad example, but you do see that sometimes of like
You will, it's.
the dip in
it's-
the fall.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's everywhere because when we had a middle school concept in Missouri Valley too, and inevitably it never failed. Fifth to sixth was always an incredible drop, and then by the time we got to eighth grade, they've leveled back out and they've
Yeah.
caught back up. And then when I looked at schools that had a traditional elementary that went through sixth grade, their drop was sixth to seventh. So
Sure.
it's just I don't know if that transition's really hard, going from a singular teacher all day to now having more freedom and multiple teachers throughout the day, or just takes a little bit to get used
Yeah.
to.
Well,
What
and
if-
seventh grade is also a very, I mean, there's so much more going on, I feel like, than
Yeah.
just, so that could be.
I feel like 7th and 10th grade are the traumatic years.
Well, and I'll tell you too, like, this is all, a lot of this gets reported to the state too, but what you're used to seeing are Iowa assessment, scores, which are actually a lot better than this, for whatever reason,
Yeah,
year in, year
well,
out.
this,
like-
and very different things. So this is, I should have prefaced with that, but this is screening data. So this is screening to identify, here's the kids that we predict are gonna struggle with something. There's some gap in their literacy, in their math, and we're like flagging you, like, hey, you gotta take care of this underlying skill, where like Iowa assessments is like content. Just what are the standards, what's the content? So this is gonna be a lot,
Right.
you know, this isn't a true reflective piece of like, you wouldn't see necessarily a lot of correlation between how we're performing here versus how we're performing in state. We will perform significantly better on state
And
assessments
if,
than
and
this.
if you look at, like, for instance, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade in literacy last year, we'll just look at, spring of 25, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, you have 63%, 64%, 69%. On the Iowa assessments, all three of these grades scored 80 and
80%
above.
plus,
So
yeah.
like, you know, one of the assessments, the one that we know of right now, because the language arts and the math are being renormed, but we know the science, and we just got our eighth grade science scores, and it's 90,
It's phenomenal,
it was
like
like
90,
94% or something
yeah,
like that of our kids were
90%
proficient in
plus.
silent-
And that's
or
a huge,
proficient
to me, it's a
science.
huge literacy test. Like, when you
Yeah.
look at that science test, it's very text
So,
heavy.
so like when we present, what you guys have seen in the past is like our middle school always performs, I mean, in the state of Iowa, we're considered outstanding, you know, like on the rubric, or whatever, like in the scoring, the state scoring, how they score schools is, you know, we're commendable or outstanding, and then you look at this and you're like 63%, we were like 80% last year. It's just totally different test, you know, so.
Yeah.
I think it goes to show, though, that it's important to look at different data sets.
100%.
Yeah.
because one could tell you where you're seeing your drawdowns versus the other one. That's why I was gonna ask you more, what's the drawback about gathering the data after implementation?
I think
I mean,
it's,
outside of time.
Right.
And I hate to say this, because this is gonna sound a little bad, but we're all busy.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think for some it's time, because we are asking, to collect a lot of data on a lot of different things. I think there's still some pockets that we have where some people kind of still want to do their own thing. They want to shut the door and teach how they want to teach with what they want to teach with. I think there's a time and place for that, but I think that's again where the implementation data is important, because
Yeah.
then you can track that down and again, it's not because anybody's in trouble, but we just want to know, like, is this working for you? Is it not? Are we all doing the same things? Are some of us doing it different? It's just important data to know, so when we have this conversation, that there's some things that are go-tos that we can say. But I think there's maybe some intimidation because of things like that, or maybe it's time. But it can be a struggle sometimes to get people to commit to what needs to be done and collected for implementation.
Because it's very difficult to garner where a student is if you don't have the start to end point and everything in between. During training classes, when we train, we have to be able to discern where they're at from the start to the end. If we don't have that, and I promise you, if I went to my boss and I said, well, I have no idea how well they did in between, that would not be a good conversation.
The student data we've got, right? Like, we've got the student data, we've got if they're getting interventions, their progress
Correct.
monitored. But to your point, sometimes it's the teacher data that we don't
Yes.
have, and I can understand how that could come across as intimidating, but again, it's not to say anybody's doing anything wrong, but to your point, it's to get to that point to just say collectively, where are things? How are we doing with this?
And I know everybody wants to see the kids to be successful, but data points show successes as well as things that need to be improved. And I mean, we're all human. There's always going to be something that needs to be improved upon.
Yeah, yeah,
We can celebrate the successes, but we can celebrate them even more when we show improvement.
yeah,
So-
I agree.
So just a quick question for you, Dr. Hardeman. The first thing I'd written down when you started talking is, what are the action items? And you gave me some of those here. And so, looking at the instructional consistency, is any of that tied to the curriculum itself? And I just remember as a student, there were some subjects where you felt like you spent a lot of time focusing in on one thing, but it was basically a gate to the rest of, the semester or whatever class that you had. Are there any of those classes that we're identifying here to where maybe we're hitting some of those speed bumps to where they may not be able to cover the information that would normally be scheduled at the end of the semester or something like that? And that's where we see kind of that drop because,
Yeah, I think that's a good question. If we were just looking at the fall data, I might be willing to say that. But to look across the board, and here we are at spring, the end of the year, and some of the data points still probably aren't where we want them to be, then I hesitate to say that, because we've gotten through most of the curriculum at this point,
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you happy with these numbers?
I live continuous improvement, like in my personal and professional life. Like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to say I'm happy until we're like 100%, I'm happy with improvement. Again, if you flip through the pages and you look at where we were red, which would be like 0 to 50% proficiency, and now where we're at yellow. Again, yellow still, I want green, but there's a lot more yellow on these pages now than there was last year. And so that's growth. That's something. That's saying that some of the things that we're doing is working. I still think that we've got a lot of work to do, but like it's also really exciting. And I think too, like, change doesn't happen overnight. And a lot of the work that a lot of people have been invested in the last couple of years, like, it's finally starting to come to fruition. And I think we're going to get this new curriculum soon. We've learned some lessons when it comes to implementation. And so I'm really excited about the future, and I'm really excited about 2 years from now, when I come to the board and talk about what this data looks like, I think we're gonna see some greens. I think it's gonna be all green and yellow, so.
Well, I guess that's where, I guess my question, I mean, we have top-notch teachers, and I believe top-notch support, but there's not one area on this sheet that is green. You know, so I wonder, like, where is the shortfall? You know, we spend a ton of money on furthering their support and our curriculum to, I believe, not see any green on this sheet.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I don't,
But again,
I don't know what the
I don't
answer
think we
is.
can go from, in some places, 30% proficient to now we're at 80% the next year. So I
I
think
would
we've got
agree.
to, I think we got to step back a little bit and look at where we started and then where we're going. And so it's gonna be, you know, steps at a time to get to that green. But I'm with you. I want to see this report full of greens. And I think we're getting closer, not there yet, but that's the
And
the
then-
aim.
I don't know, did you say this, we compare very well to the
It's pretty,
other?
it's pretty consistent. When you look at, what I had Dr. Hartman do is pull data from a lot of other schools, some of that are our size, some of that are just like area schools, to see how they were performing on this, because this does not look like Iowa assessments at all. This looks, which, to your point, I'm kind of excited about, because when you're scoring in the 80 and 90 percentile, it's easy to get complacent, because you're like,
It's a different
hey,
data set.
we're doing
yeah.
really well, and in reality, I want to find the gaps. you
Right.
know? So I want to try different tests in order to find data that looks like this. So the data that we actually report out on looks a lot better than this. This is actually what Dr. Hartman brought was, was the tough data, and,
And before this, this was new when Dr. Hazy and I came to use this assessment. We were using iReady before, which was identifying too strong the other way. And again, it was a very different measurement. It was a measurement that was very close to the Iowa assessment, and you could correlate. Like, if kids were performing this way on the iReady, there's this amount of correlation of how they were gonna perform on ISAS. And it was a really hard thing to do, to pull that away and to move into this, because this is what the data looked like right away, lots of red, and that pissed people off. People were very frustrated by that, and understandably so. But to me, we're getting better information, because at the end of the day, if kids have some of these gaps when it comes to literacy or math, that's what we need to attack, instead of just being satisfied with the fact that, like, things look good on paper. Like, we need to drill down and figure out what it is, so when they're in 12th grade, they can read and comprehend things in a way that's gonna support them to be able to, be out in the real world and do what they need to do. So it's hard data to look at sometimes, but at the same time, again, I go back to, like, but we're growing, and I'd rather have this data and have it not look great, but know what we need to attack and support kids with, than to not have that
So
information.
the problem that we were facing before is we were scoring in the 60th and 70th percentile in Iowa assessments, which is not good enough. But the data on our iReady was coming back in the 80th percentile. So then when we try to have these conversations about, like, what do we need to work at, we were being steered back to is like, well, look at our iReady data. We were doing so much better. We're just not scoring as well in the Iowa assessment, but our iReady data is so much better. So then we took away the iReady test, and we said we're going to go to this test, which is probably over identifying the other way, but at least it looks like this, which then kind of makes you say, okay, yeah, we do got to do something different. We do got to change. We do got to, So that was kind of the intent behind it was, let's find something that maybe identifies a few more kids, so we can figure out why our Iowa assessment scores not as good. We've seen our Iowa assessment scores go up, so I think the end result is good. Like, that's the thing, is you don't want to make people. And the bad thing about it is we do have some teachers that feel very frustrated by this data, because they've been working their butts off, and they see this data and it's
Yeah.
kind of like a slap. But in reality, like, we don't want them to look at it like that. We want to look at it like, all right, well, like, we just still got to keep going. Like, we got to keep getting better, different, like, that's, just kind of that continuous, change. And I think we've implemented a lot the last few years between UFly and Science of Reading curriculum, and now we're looking at bringing in a brand new curriculum for literacy, So, I mean, we've changed up how we do, our intervention. We've added EL. Next year, we're gonna do something a little different with TAG, because we wanna continue to push our upper level kids. And we're seeing the upper level kids are actually scoring really well right now, because like our 5th grade, for instance, we always bring a few kids down from 5th grade that qualify for junior high math, and it's usually a handful, 7, 8 kids. They have over 20 kids identified for that are gonna be 5th graders next year. And so now we're talking about bringing the teacher up to them, so we don't have to transport 20-some kids down to the middle school. I mean, so we're seeing that not only are we closing the gap in some of our other areas, slowly, but closing it, but our upper level kids are getting the benefit as well, so.
So I guess I should be focused less on seeing green and focus more on seeing the improvement.
Yeah, I mean, you
Is
gotta
that
go
what you're
from
saying?
red probably to yellow first, then we'll go yellow to green. There's a lot more yellow this year than there was last year, a lot of
Right,
red.
no, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Progress, not perfection. That's,
Yeah.
Right,
Any concerns, because anytime you introduce something new, it takes time to learn it.
yeah,
So we're gonna be transitioning to a new curriculum for literacy.
mm-hmm,
It generally takes a couple years, generally.
yeah. It's interesting, because that's what people say a lot, like, well, expected dip, when you get new
Okay.
curriculum, expected dip. At the same time, like, this is year 2, I believe, for UFly,
Right.
and I feel like we've seen gains right away.
Now, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think the new curriculum that we'll get is very different than what a lot of our teachers are currently using for their instructional materials, and so I think a lot of that most of them have been through letters training, some of them have even been through like the second course of letters, and I think they'll get some of these materials in their hands and be like, oh, this is how I can integrate some of what I've learned through my letters training, so I just feel like that's gonna make it a little bit more successful of a transition than maybe a regular curriculum implementation.
Do you see the difference, though, I guess, between buildings and the fact that, like, Kreft has been using some of this, and you've seen the gains with UFly.
Yep,
But then you look at Titan Hill, and we're seeing not quite as much growth in those areas, where the training's a little different for literacy, correct? I mean, you're not as focused on the letters training like you are early on. It's different up here, right?
yeah, there'd be some different things, right, not as foundational.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So is that, I would imagine that's a little more challenging, even not just for the students, but probably for the teachers as well?
just as far as like taking on the
Yes.
curriculum and the PD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, second grade is implementing UFly, and you can see the gains there.
Mhm.
So I don't, it just leads me to believe that once people get some of these structured literacy materials in their hands, I think it feels very promising,
okay.
yeah.
And I just talked with, I went to Hy-Vee, get those brownies for Board Appreciation Week, by the way. And as I was walking out, one of our craft, title teachers was walking out, and she's gonna be on our SIAC committee, and we were emailing back and forth today, and talking, and she had made a comment, she's like, well, have you seen our data? She's like, and I'll tell you, it's like, it's the first time I've heard her talk about the data, like, cause she's, Kraft, they're very proud of the games that they've seen, and so, so I think that once there will be an excitement, like, once we get they start to see those gains, it's gonna be adapted a little bit easier, they're gonna buy in more, we're gonna see better results,
And that's the
right?
thing I don't want people to lose sight of, like, there's pockets, I do encourage you, look through this and look for the pockets where you can find things like that, because if you look at like Kraft, for example, last year, kindergarten and first grade, they ended literacy 51 and 46% proficient. This year, 70% and 57% proficient. Like, that's huge, and they have worked really hard, they've had to go through a lot of challenges, and they should be really, really proud of that. And then in math, kindergarten, end of the year, 56% proficient, first grade, 51%. Then you go to this year, kindergarten, end of the year at 65%, and then first grade, 53. So not as huge of a jump in first, but still a gain. And I just think that they should be excited. Like, while we're not 80% yet, but like, that's a big deal, and
Big
it's
jumps.
a big deal to them
Yeah.
because they've worked their tails off to get there. And so I think that, I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't want to end on a note where
Yeah.
people feel like it's like, oh, well, but people have worked really hard, and there's some really positive places to look in here too.
So since second grade is getting ready to implement UFly and use it more.
Yep.
Have you guys thought about doing peer-to-peer discussions, utilizing kindergarten and first grade teachers to talk to the second grade teachers?
Yeah,
and
so
say-
second grade has been doing UFly, which I think
Oh, okay.
contributes to why you see that kind of
Yeah.
K through 2, you see that growth. But I'm glad you brought that up, because we have done some of that. We've brought teachers from here down to Craft, and
Good.
they've got to observe. And then the coaches have done a great job of, like, within their own buildings too, like helping different teachers observe while they've done lessons. And I think that's been really powerful to be able to observe your own peers do something, instead of somebody telling you how to
Right.
do it. Yeah.
Any other questions for Dr. Harmon? All right, thank you. Move on to 6.02, finance report.
Oh, I don't think I pulled yours up. Let's see.
Yeah, it was different. I thought it was just your PowerPoint. The screen up there is a different color. Okay, so we have our year-to-date expenditures. Everything is looking good in the general fund, the management fund. One of the things I did want to point out, if you're looking at the PEPAL fund, that does look a little bit like we haven't used a lot of it, and that is because we'll be using the PEPAL fund for the portion of the activities building that will not be the donor or the bond. So that is why those funds have not been spent yet. And then we'll get ready here to make our first debt payment on the bonds that we issued last year here this next month. So that amount will increase there in the debt column as well. So everything is trending really nicely for our year to date. So I wanted to touch on tonight, Senate File 2472, which is the property tax reform. The governor actually signed that yesterday afternoon. So just some little overviews of what this bill entails for school districts. So the uniform levy is currently the 540 levy that we discussed a couple weeks ago when I presented our budget. It is set to decrease for FY28 to $5.10 and then to $4.90 in FY29. So what that means for us is that the state will be taking on more of our funding instead of the property taxes from that aspect of the uniform levy. The tax increment financing TIF, the change there is that it adds the school uniform levy to the list of levies that are exempt from TIF. So that will help out that decrease as well in some of those areas. The unspent authorized budget, the UAB, is limited to no more than 35% of the school district's authorized expenditures. This one is a big deal for some districts, but for us, it is not. Currently, our unspent authorized budget is a little over 8% as of the end of last fiscal year, and then we are trending upwards, but at no point in time do I ever expect to get towards that 35%. The homestead credit, there was a change there that converts the credit to a 10% exemption. It's a $5,500 minimum up to a $20,000 maximum. It does leave the current senior and military exemptions as well. One of the things that I might be most excited about is the taxpayer statements. Those are the statements that come out in March. And the change is to simplify and make them easier to understand. So super excited about that. It's also going to provide taxpayers with their change in property taxes actually due. And then the one thing it does remove is the requirement for the county to mail them. They still do have that option. That's at the county, not with us, but they may post them online instead. So those are kind of the overviews that we'll be seeing as we go into our budget for FY '28. Lisa, if you'll go to the next screen. The other big thing that is part of this bill is SAVE. So there are changes with the SAVE. So the first thing it did was extend it to 2071, which I think is beyond any point that I will ever have to worry about that now. But the thing that it did do was it did accelerate the diversion of SAVE revenues towards the property tax relief components. So the chart there on the right side, currently for FY '26, 7.1% of SAVE is being diverted to the property tax relief funds. FY '27, that will increase by 5.4% to 12.5%. The following 2 years are each 2.5% increases. Then we randomly increase by 5% and then back down to 2.5% for a total diversion of 25%. So for us, over the next 24 years, it is a diversion of over $14 million if our SAVE revenue does not increase. So across the state. So if sales tax revenues do not increase, then we would lose over $14 million in the next 24 years, which is approximately 18% annually. So not great news on that aspect of it. We do have a SAVE bond. So currently, everyone is concerned about what is going to happen with the bonds. The S&P on May 3rd, I believe it was, placed all Iowa schools on a SAVE bond with SAVE bonds outstanding on a credit watch negative. So what that means is that right now we have an A+ credit rating for our SAVE bond. So they have put us on a credit watch, and within the next 90 days, they will reassess our bond rating and could decrease our bond rating. Now, they will be reviewing the bond coverage using a 0% growth factor. So that's the same thing that I just showed you on that last slide, that we would lose $14 million over the next 24 years. So probably why people that are holding our money or holding bonds that we need to pay them back are very concerned. But right now, currently our bond coverage on our sales tax bond is 2.4%. The projection that Piper has given us, the lowest that we will drop to is 1.92. And Piper is projecting that we will be okay, and everyone that is above a 1.25 should be okay. Everyone below a 1.25 will be having some concerns. So over the next few weeks, we'll be having conversations with Piper because there are a couple of options to, if that would cause our bond rating to decrease, we can look at spreading that out. Now, obviously, since SAVE goes out until 2071, not really what we want to do. I don't think that we will have major issues with our bond because we weren't using that significant amount of our SAVE revenues for it, but that is something that we will be continuing to work through over the next 90 days. So. But hey, the taxpayer statement is easy to read.
One of the things though that they did do that was a net positive was for us is they did change so if you guys remember when we were running the bond, general obligation bonds can only be done in even numbered years. And they did change, what they did change was it used to be in the general election, November general election of even numbered years. now you can have a special election in June.
No,
So
they
you-
did not pass that. They pulled that at the last
Oh, they
minute.
pulled that
Yep.
out?
Yep, they pulled that.
Oh, never mind.
Sorry.
I still don't get that,
Nope.
so.
You had me up here.
Yeah.
Now I'm back.
Yeah, that was on the
I
list
was like, oh
of,
boy,
these
nothing.
things
I
did
even
not
double checked it in
happen.
AI, I'm like, did they make sure it says, yes, Iowa property tax legislation add a new June special election for local bond issues.
Well, that's why you can't believe AI all the time.
Oh,
So a couple of the things that were not in the bill, it does not require the state to take over the additional levy. So there's the uniform levy, the 540, then there's the additional 170 levy. At one point in time, there was conversation in the bill that they would take that over. That did not go through. It does not lower the voted levy maximum rates, like when we talked about Pepple's maximum rate being set. They did not put that in. It does not require a 60% supermajority vote of the community to bond against SAVE. That was a conversation piece that was happening. That was not in the bill. Nothing with the management fund. There was a lot of conversation about that. And then the last thing on the list was there is no second bond issue election date in June, so.
never mind that.
Sorry.
Darn it. I thought we got one nugget out of there. Nope.
Yeah, we did. We got a easy-to-read taxpayer
Read tax
statement.
statements.
Okay, oh, sorry. Ooh.
Have you seen them?
No, we still have to make them.
Then we don't know.
I know,
Are
whose
we gonna have more
definition of
people
easy
showing
to
up
read?
on our levy hearing to talk about roads and trees?
Yeah, so hopefully not anymore.
Okay.
So none of the changes impact any of the board's authority for like local taxation?
So the one would be it's not your authority, it's the state's authority over the uniform levy, but the uniform levy will obviously drop, so our levy in return should drop.
Okay,
But you don't get to set that.
no.
The state sets that, so nothing that, yes, correct, nothing that you actually,
Is it, did they pass as part of the bill then the provision that requires boards to pass a board policy that dictates, that spells the terms of what they want their UAB to reside within?
yes, that is in there. But we
So you guys
already,
will have to pass a.
we already have a policy.
Right. So,
So
but does
we're-
it say the specific limits?
Yeah, we have
Oh, okay.
The
in between.
range.
I mean, I'm sure they'll come out with a better
5 to
policy.
15, probably, that's what everybody wants to be in.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Price? Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 6.03, superintendent report.
So just have random updates here. The athletic building, so if you guys went over there, you see they have it completely torn apart. They have the dirt in there, it's settling. The new metal, for the current section will be here, they think the second week of June. So they'll be able to start reconstructing the current building. And then the new building will be here like the second week of July, which is about a month sooner than they thought maybe it was gonna be here. So that's a super big positive. The weight room, the wall's 100% out. They're now fabricating the giant beam to be able to be retrofitted for our space. So that's gonna be done here soon. The middle school, they're gearing up. I mean, I think the second that teachers are out of our lot on the 27th, they're gonna be rolling in to start taking it up. Their goal is that the whole thing's out by the end of that week. So teachers are done on Wednesday. I think by that weekend, you'll see a lot of that lot's just gone to the middle school. They wanna get after it. Weather pending, of course. Storage units underneath the bleachers, we had a little snafu, so on everything we looked at, Paco and everything, the bleachers, looked like the field is actually on the high school property. So we submitted the permit with the high school address. Well, it ran through, and a month later, we got notice that we put the wrong address. It's actually on the middle school property. So now they want us to resubmit the entire thing again and have it go through everything all over again. So, so we're trying to reach out to different people to try to figure out how we can bypass, because everybody's good with it. We just had the wrong address, which means now it goes back to the bottom of the pile to then get filed through, so, and it's just storage units. So we're hoping that we can get it, go through quickly. SRO interviews, they did SRO interviews, all, day to day, and so hopefully we'll know by the end of the week who our SRO is for next year. So as soon as I find out, I'll let you guys know. Legislation, there's several big pieces. Obviously, the tax bill was a big piece that passed. Another one that passed that is getting a lot of headlines right now, and we actually had a webinar on it today, was 8th grade sports participation. So you can now, 8th graders can now participate in high school sports. So we've been having conversation about what that looks like for us, because I get smaller schools, when you're fighting for numbers, the 8th grade could really, potentially help out. We've had 8th grade in baseball and softball for a long time, because it's kind of like, well, once you finish that last day, you're technically a high schooler, so they've already had that ruling for a long time. So now the question is do 7th grade now qualify to play baseball, softball? Because if 8th graders were considered 9th graders at the end of the year, are 7th graders considered 8th graders at the end of the year? So now can 7th graders play high school baseball and softball? We're gonna wait to see how that one plays out. I do know for the rest, and this is the conversation I've had with Mr. Dermody, and as we're talking through this, and maybe some other schools our size, how they're dealing with this, is we're going to treat it just like we would any other athlete. They are, like right now, if you're a 9th grader and you try out for basketball and you make the varsity squad, you're on varsity. But if you don't make the varsity squad, then you're probably playing 9th grade basketball, right? So we'll allow 8th graders to try out for varsity sports, and if they don't make it, then they still have 8th grade middle school sports. I think you could potentially see 8th graders in sports like bowling, potentially wrestling, and those smaller weights. At our school, not soccer, we have a ton of soccer players, but potentially soccer. We're thinking swimming's probably one that you potentially will see some 8th graders in. But outside of that, I don't anticipate seeing many 8th grade football players. I just don't think that that's probably gonna happen. We don't have many 9th grade football players that play varsity football, so I don't think that that's gonna happen. I don't think you'll see many 8th grade volleyball players, because we have a ton of volleyball players go out. I don't know that you'll see many 8th grade boys basketball players. You may see some 8th grade girls basketball players, just because, again, numbers are a consideration. So, but at the end of the day, you probably won't see a lot of 8th grade track kids qualify for varsity sports. So that's one of the things to just kind of keep we're just gonna kind of learn as we go how that works. But right now, we'll allow them to, we can't really not allow them. That's what it says, is 8th graders can play. And so I think we might be putting ourselves at a disadvantage if we didn't at least give them an opportunity to try out like every other kid to be able to play. And if they don't, then we have very successful middle school programs that they can participate in. So that's an interesting one. And then the other one that's kind of a big one is student behavior. So they passed a student behavior bill, and the original one made me really nervous. This new one's not as bad. So essentially what it is if a teacher removes a student from their classroom, we now have to have a committee that is kind of developed with, and they kind of spell out who's on the committee. It's basically other teachers that are part of this committee. And then the committee would meet and decide and review the facts and determine whether or not the student go back in the classroom. So in the past, that was 100% on kind of the principal administration. You might have some people at conflict, like the teacher might say, I kicked him out of my classroom, I want him back in. Then the teacher's like, you kicked him out for walking around his desk, like he's coming back in your classroom, like he's not making, and that's the thing, is you would have kind of this back and forth between the two. Now there's a committee that's gonna step in and review the facts and say, listen, Bubba really wasn't doing that, he wasn't having that big of issues, we're gonna put him back in the classroom. But then they might also make recommendations to say like, hey, they might need some support from a teacher leader to maybe model some classroom management, or how to interact with that student or something like that. So a little bit more of a collaborative process, which I think we're all fine with. But I think that was the fear, right? Is you have different teachers that have different levels of comfortability with things, whereas I might be perfectly fine in my classroom with a kid walking around the desk or, tossing papers at each other and be like, oh, knock it off. Another teacher might say, that's enough, you're out of my classroom, and we do see that from time to time. I was administrator, a lot of conversations were had about like, hey, what's appropriate behavior, what's not appropriate, what's behavior that maybe you deal with, and what's behavior that maybe we deal with at the office, so, just, we're gonna have to navigate, that's just one more thing for us to navigate, so.
Just a quick question on that. So do we have space at each building for students that are removed from their classroom until the committee meets?
So how the rule states is they're not allowed to go back to that classroom until the committee meets. So like, right now, if a student gets kicked out of an elementary class, there really is one space in the office, and they might be out the whole day until the committee or the teacher decides that they can come back. So, and we do have students right now, if you go to Titan Hill and you walk in the office, there's about 4 or 5 students every day that are sitting in the, in the office in there. I don't know what those numbers do because of this. I would say the vast majority of teachers are just like, you need to get out of my classroom, you need to chill out for a while, and now you can come back. They'll say you can come back, but the ones that are like, nope, they can't come back, and we gotta get a committee together, yeah, we'll have to find conference room space or something. Middle school and high school is a little bit different because if they get kicked out, they just have to make it to the next period and then they go to the next period. So it's not, and then the committee's gotta meet before the next day when they would go back to that teacher in that classroom. So the biggest thing is we're gonna have to find people who wanna be on this committee because you're potentially meeting, anytime a kid gets kicked out of the office and a teacher doesn't want them back in their classroom, which may not be that often, but it may be really often, I don't really know.
Do we have, I was gonna say, do we have any numbers? Like to give
not-
us a general direction of?
Not that, we can track number of students that were sent to the office, but we don't have a provision right now that says whether or not those students
Would be allowed
went
back, or
back to the
what
classroom. If a
would
teacher
qualify
said
for that.
no, we went back, because sometimes the principal will say, you're gonna be in here. A good principal will go down and have a conversation with the teacher and been like, hey, Jimmy came down, hung out with me for a while. Sorry, parents, if you have a Jimmy. Came down and talked to me for a while. He's in a good place now. He's gonna apologize to you and he's gonna come back to class. And the teachers are usually pretty good with that. So, that data has just not been collected because that's not been an issue so far.
Is that still an option then, or does it have to go to the committee?
It only has to go to the committee if the teacher does not want them back in the
Okay,
classroom.
gotcha.
Correct.
Misunderstood that, okay.
Yeah. Some of the other bills were they were pretty intense. Like there was one that was, if you get removed 3 or more times in any semester, then that student has to go to an alternative school. And I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. Like, because we have some kids, that, like little Jimmy, that he might leave my class on a daily basis because he needs to go for a walk, because Jimmy has ADHD or Jimmy needs to reset, Jimmy needs to go on a walk, so I might say, hey, Jimmy, go to the walk to the office, But that doesn't mean I want him out of my class forever, so, but there were some pretty hard, fast rules in there, like 3 strikes, you're literally out, and then the principal's gotta find an alternative setting for you, like. And so then it was gonna force teachers to be like, Jimmy really needs to leave my classroom right now, but it would be Jimmy's 3rd strike and he would be gone. So I'm just gonna deal with Jimmy right now, when I know that I can send him to the office for 5 minutes, he can come back and we can reset, and we would be good to go. So, sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes when legislators hear concerns, they try to solve problems based upon what they think would work, without getting all of the knowledge about what might actually work, So, that's just sometimes though, I think, right? So,
I was gonna say, I guess my concern was that they're removing power from the administrator and putting it into a committee instead.
They are.
So,
that is correct.
Yep.
Can they still, and I speak from experience, but at the middle school level, both of my kids had like a pass that would allow them to leave to go to the office for a decompression. Is that?
You can do that now.
Still?
Yep, you can still
Okay.
do that, yep. Yep, this only really applies if you have a kid get removed from a classroom and a
Strictly on
teacher does
behavior.
not want them back, So, it says they're not coming back in my classroom, then the committee would get back together and I don't really know, they haven't really put out guidance. I don't know if the committee can say Jimmy's gotta go to another class or the committee says Jimmy's gotta have
para or something.
Well, they can't really do that because
They
they're not
can't do
special
that.
education, but you can say like, Jimmy needs to, go to a different school, you know, then we'd have to find him a different school set. I mean, I don't really know. We're waiting on guidance on that.
Please don't tell this to Timmy because he'll
A
get
hard
himself
one to
kicked out of
navigate.
every class, so he's just gotta go.
Don't do that, Timmy. Don't be watching, Timmy. So. Okay. That's all my
That was
fun
it?
news.
Okay. All right, then we will move on to discussion items. So 7.01, athletic building security cameras.
So these are, the athletic building right now doesn't actually have any security cameras in it. Obviously, you're gonna invest that much money in a building, you wanna be able to have, some security systems in place to be able to monitor it. And so, what I asked, Prime to develop along with our, engineers designed the building is, architects designed the building is to have a, door access. So it tells us who opened it on every exterior door and when it's open, so that way we can monitor access, we can control keys. The goal is that we don't have to hand on any physical key to this building. There won't be any physical keys outside of what the maintenance has. It'll all be key cards, so then at any point, we can shut them off, turn them on, do whatever, so that way, you know, Bubba comes, I'm pick on Bubba, Bubba comes and borrows a key, we see Bubba's keys unlocking, you know, Bubba's kid borrows his key to unlock it and lets every one of his friends in there and supervise, we can shut Bubba's key off, you know, so we'll be able to do that, but then the cameras in the two main areas, kinda like we have in the gym, so they're not actively, they're just there in case, you know, something bad happens, you know, we can be able to monitor. I know that sometimes when you put stuff in the gym, people get a little bit nervous about, you know, whether or not, I just tell kids, like, that's why we have locker rooms, like, you change in the locker room, you don't change in the gym, you know, so, but the cameras will be in the two main areas and then in the hallway, and then on the exterior, on the corner, all four corners of the building will be exterior cameras, because the parking lot cameras can't see the access road past the building blocks it, so I need some cameras on that side to be able to kind of monitor that road back there, and then to monitor the area kind of over by the scoreboard as well, so.
I would say I'm not as concerned with Lewis Central. I think Iowa Western being in there, I could see them using the main area as a locker room just for space, and
They could potentially,
also
yeah.
guys are really comfortable sometimes around, you know, each other, so
Right, yeah.
that'd be my only thing. Again, though, I feel like high schoolers are a little more mindful around going to the locker room.
They are. It wouldn't be, so like right now, our middle school, they do the same thing. If you walk in there on a visiting football day, they're all, the visiting teams all actually change in the gym, in the middle school gym. And they don't really care who's watching or anything else. I mean, there's windows up in the cafeteria, there's cameras in the gym. They just kind of do their thing. I just make sure I don't, you know, if I have to search for something, I just don't look at that time period, so. But we let them know, that's why they have locker rooms, you know, so you can change in a locker room.
Is that the construction company that has the camera outside the athletic building right now on the post? Or is that our camera that we have?
Outside the athletic building on a post?
Yeah, so if you go around the road that you're not supposed to drive around anymore, there's a wooden post up with like a Ring camera. Is that for the?
Oh, that must be them,
Okay.
which, I didn't know they had that.
Their
but I'm-
equipment?
But I'm like, yeah, that's fine, like, that's good.
Yeah.
Cause they have their trailer back there, so I bet that's probably what they're watching.
Okay. I was just curious.
And how did you find that out, Tim?
I was driving on the road that should not have been driven on because I wanted to see.
He's a board member,
The
people.
progress,
He's
yeah.
allowed to do this, so it says authorized personnel on it. He is authorized, so
Just giving you a hard time.
none of you are, so. So, yeah, so any questions about that?
When you can keep track of vandalism,
Yeah.
a lot easier.
It's a lot of
Question.
expensive equipment, so.
Yeah.
All right. And we will move on to 7.02, middle school parking lot cameras.
So same thing, this is, there's 5 poles out there, so this will be a camera on each one of those poles, or camera system. It's not like one camera, there's actually 4 heads on a camera, so you get 4 different cameras. And then this is 3, so the 3 entrances at the middle school, the operations building and the 2 outside the middle school all have license plate readers as well. So if a car comes in and accesses our property anywhere from the high school through the middle school, the operations, we'll have a really good chance of catching their license plate, so.
7.03, Iowa Western 28E agreement.
So we've had a 28E agreement with Iowa Western. This is an updated one because the old one didn't have factored in. It only had us sharing football. Didn't have anything about like baseball, softball, or swimming. So this new one just has baseball, softball, and swimming. Same terms as before. Essentially, there's a rental fee of each season of $2,000, which ends up being a wash per sport. Because we rent baseball, softball, they rent football, swimming, so it's pretty much a wash. But then the main thing in there is 20% of facility renovation costs by the partner. So this is, how it's worded in there is it's agreed upon renovations. So if Iowa Western decides that they want to do something in the baseball softball field that we really don't need, like we have no interest in it, then we'll just have that conversation with them and say, we don't need that, that's 100% on you. But if it's something that has a mutual benefit, then we can say, yeah, then you're gonna pay the 20%, so. I let them know the pool has an awful lot of needs before we move forward with this, and they understood, so. It's gonna be cheaper than them building their own pool.
All right, any questions on this one? All right, we'll move to 7.04, board policy 100 series, updates and review, first reading.
Oh, I should have factored this in. You probably don't have Assembly, do you? Okay, so did everybody get those emails for Assembly?
Yep.
Okay, so if you go to Assembly, this is just a first review anyway, so, it's the 100 series that need to be reviewed. There's a few in there, so when you click into Assembly, it'll actually, if you click on the policy, you'll see all the policies that are in yellow are the ones that are currently in draft mode. And then if you click into it, you can see all the changes. The beautiful thing about Assembly is it tracks all the changes. If there's nothing, like there's no highlights or anything on it, it means the policy didn't change from what IASB had before and what we had. So it's just a review. If something changed in it, then it'll all be highlighted in there. I'll try to, I'm not done with my recap sheet of things that have changed, so I will finish that and send it to you so you know exactly which policies have been updated. And then there's only one outside the 100 series, it's the 803.1. And so this is basically how we get rid of obsolete equipment. So we used to have this is probably the biggest change in any of them because we used to have a $5,000 limit. Well, anymore, like to qualify for a $5,000 limit is not very much, as far as what something's valued. What we ran into it was buses, because our buses on paper may have a value of above $5,000, which means that we have to put it on an auction site. But the problem with the auction site is there's no minimum. So if we throw a bus onto Purple Wave, somebody could claim it for $50 or $100 or $500 or whatever. And if we took it to the scale and dropped it off, we'd get $1,500 at the scale. So we just want to have a little bit more for some of those weird things. We want to have a little bit more of control over what we can do. If we can advertise it, if we don't get the price we want, then we can still take it to the scale. So by moving it, and IASB's recommendation is $20,000. So by moving it to $20,000, then the things like the bus, or maybe weight equipment, or some of those other things that have that weird, where the technically valued more, but nobody in the right mind is ever going to pay that, then it gives us some flexibility as far as to make sure we can get the most value out of it. I mean, we want to get every dime we can. And if it just so happens that taking it to the recycle center is going to give us $2,000, and somebody otherwise is going to give us $500 to purchase it, like I'd rather have the $2,000. So, but
It still has to be advertised, right?
so it has to be advertised. Yep. So we can still advertise it. We just don't have to have it on an auction.
Right.
So we can advertise it.
You're not tied to them.
Correct, and if nobody bids what we think it needs to go for, if we have a wrecker price of $2,000 and nobody's gonna give us that, and we advertise it online for a while, then we can go with the wrecker price of $2,000. But if we go with like the online auction, like they want us to do right now, then we're kind of stuck with whatever
Right.
we get, so.
And there's no vote on this, so if you haven't been on Assembly and kind of tooled around to see what things look like, take the time to
And
go through and review.
if you want, I can always walk you through it too, if you wanna come in and I can walk you through it. That'll be how all our policies are moving forward, because it's so much easier for me to make sure they're updated in a timely manner, not only from IASB to our policy, but then the minute you guys vote on them, I can go and click the button and now they're live online for everybody. So before it was a lot of, I had to send them to Anna, Anna had to upload them. Sometimes wires got crossed and she uploaded the wrong, we just, it is what it is, so.
Well, can I tell you that when I started, when we had policy updates, we would get a notebook that was about yay thick, and every board packet that was hand-delivered by the superintendent would have board policy updates that we had to go and put in our board policy notebook and keep up to date.
Oh.
So, this is awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
Bubba probably still wishes we had the notebook.
Hey, no, notebook works for me, but
There is
But
one
I
board
did-
policy binder out there, Bubba. if you-
I do understand.
I've
It
got an
just works
outdated
for
one
me.
if you wanna go through it.
All right, moving on to 7.05, 2026-27 board meeting dates.
So here's the meeting dates is, I'm gonna recommend them. So one meeting in July, it kind of felt weird because it was like the Monday after 4th of July, which for us is considered the vacation day, so I don't wanna have to have, Lisa and Andrea have to come in on a board meeting. I'll be here anyway, but, on a vacation day. So we moved it to next week. Then August has 3 of them, and it's only because of how Labor Day fell, so we wanted to make sure we still had, kind of 2 meetings of September, but because we weren't able to get both of them there because of Labor Day, we ended up doing the 31st of August, the 21st of September. And then the only other odd one is in January. My in-laws did not take into consideration our board meeting dates when they planned our extended family vacation, and so I'm not allowed to miss that trip. Otherwise, I would use a board meeting days. So if you guys want to go against me and say, yeah, we want 2 meetings in January, I guess, one less Disney cruise for this guy, so. But then otherwise, they're pretty consistent.
The May dates should be May 3rd and May 17th.
Oh, did we have that wrong? I missed it.
And then I can never remember, when's Dead Week for Iowa?
The last full week in July, I
Right.
think.
Mhm.
It is. There's like an extra Friday added on to it, so now it's like 10 or 11 days. but-
The only thing I know is usually I'm gone the week of whenever the Dead Week is, so.
Week of August 3rd, or,
I think August 3rd is the first day at camp, so that'd be the day back.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, so just make a mental note that it's May 3rd and 17th, that's correct. Thanks for catching that. Dr.
Is everyone
Hartman.
on the calendar?
Oh.
All right, any other questions on these?
Could we potentially look at just moving the extra August one to the Tuesday following Labor Day,
Yeah,
rather than having 3 in August?
yeah,
I-
you guys,
They're still all 2 weeks apart.
I think I like the August, the way it's set up, only because if something needs talked about with because we'll be wrapping up, well, by the 31st, everything better be wrapped up. But with the
The building?
middle school
Yeah.
stuff and the facilities. I thought the same thing, like, should we push it back?
I'm
And
just
like,
looking at the August to September, there's 3 full weeks in between then. That,
Right.
yeah.
My
Worst
guess
case
is if we have
scenario.
anything come up with the
Yeah, it's
bond
3,
items, we
it would be,
always
It's
do
the
special
same way
it's
either
3
way.
either
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
so.
So,
That is
yeah.
one of the things that we have done in the last couple of years with Labor Day. We tried one time to go the full 5 weeks, and it is, obviously, that's when we're
That's a
hiring
lot.
a lot of classified staff. Bills are coming in like crazy,
As I say,
so.
whoever has bills that week, good luck.
Right, yeah.
It'll probably be this guy.
You just shot yourself in the foot on that
I
one.
did,
Yep.
I did.
And then we weren't as concerned with the January one, obviously, because of winter break being in there.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions, comments on this one?
I'm all right either way.
Okay. So then when we vote, do we say the May 3rd?
You
date?
can just say as amended.
Okay, as amended.
Yeah.
All right, then we will move on to 7.06, SiAC committee approval.
So our SiAC committee, we have to meet minimum one time a year. So we're looking to, this June will be a pretty big one because we want to go over all of our changes to our strategic plan. So we're going to go over strategic plan changes. That's really what we're going to get feedback on. When we'll touch base with everything else that's on here as far as major educational needs. Essentially what it looks like, if you haven't been to a SiAC meeting, is we give a presentation, much like what Dr. Hartman gave tonight on our performance. We have a discussion about it, and then we discuss how, our goals, what we're gonna do about performance, and then actually it's gonna align beautifully with our strategic plan, because we're gonna have one about student performance, data, feedback, one about culture climate, which will be a lot about student discipline and bullying harassment data, and then we'll get feedback for that, and then the last one will be finance and facilities, and we'll get some feedback on that as well, and then that'll kind of solidify. That way, by the time we present to you guys to formally adopt our strategic plan, we'll have had input from staff members, community members, and so it should be pretty well-rounded plan. So, but our committee, if you go to the list, as you can see, the hardest one to find you'll see a couple of familiar names up there, and it's because the hardest ones to find are students. And so if we have a connection that we can make a student come, then we'll grab them. If you guys have any other recommendations, we can throw them on as well. But those are our parent community members that we have up there right now, and then admin staff, certified teachers. So we try to make sure we had a tag teacher, an EL teacher, special ed teacher, elementary teacher, middle school teachers, high school teachers, so we kind of get a wide variety. We got an industrial tech teacher, so we want a careers teacher in there as well. So.
Is this bigger than we typically?
This is typically what we about approve, and then who ends up showing up is way less. So, but we made a lot of phone calls, text messages, and emails today to all of these people. And a few of them aren't gonna be able to make the June meeting, but they've said keep them on the list, because we're anticipating having regular meetings instead of just having the June one. With our strategic plan, we know we wanna have a late fall meeting, and then we wanna have a spring meeting as well, so we can kind of touch base with them twice. So you'll see, we won't have all of those people come to June, but they'll be involved, hopefully at the next meeting. So, but really, we had the majority of these people that are up there agreed to come, so I was happy. But it's hard. There's a lot of stuff going on. We had a balance. We originally, if you looked, we originally on June 9th, we had to move it to the 16th. We had baseball games, national dance competitions. We had people going on trips, vacations. I'm like, we would only had I think Dr. Hartman and I would have been alone in the room. So I was like, we better move it. So 1 week later, we got the majority of them. So it was nice too, because for us to be able to reach out, and everybody's like, oh, I'd love to do it, but the 9th doesn't work. And I'm like, how about the 16th? So kind of got them locked in then, because they're like,
We can't come up with two excuses.
you're not gone 2 weeks in a row. Come on now. So, but
So is it on the 9th or the 16th?
16th.
16th.
Oh.
It was on the 9th when I sent this out, and
Okay.
then after we found nobody
Today.
available for the
Gotcha.
9th, then we switched it to 16th. 16th at 5:30.
Okay. Any other questions? 7.07, shared services agreement with Central Education Foundation.
Oh, one thing too with the SiAC that I wanted to bring up is, right now, Tim's the only one that's on the SiAC committee, so we can't have up to 3 board members. So if anybody wants to add their name to it, does anybody want to add their name to it? Anybody else interested in coming?
When is it?
I'm out of town the 16th. so-
I am too.
Likely story.
Good excuses, guys.
I'll be in Gulf Shores.
Oh, you know what? We're thinking about going there.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. But just to keep that in mind, you guys don't have to add on to it now, but when we have the fall meeting, if somebody else wants to come, you can just always just show up. So as long as we don't have more than a quorum there, we're good. So. Okay.
right, then we'll move on to shared services agreement with Central Education Foundation.
So this is something that, you know, as we're trying to help the Education Foundation kind of get off the ground, you know, and become a fully functioning operation rather than, you know, a volunteer organization. We actually had an opportunity, and like I said, anytime we have somebody resign at the school here, I look at a resignation as a potential opportunity. So I always take a look at what can we combine? Can we change, you know, job roles? Is there, you know, can we do something different? You know, like, and so every single time that somebody resigns, I think these guys probably like, oh man, what's Sprint gonna do now? Because I always take the role, kind of shuffle it around, and then we do something different. So like, for instance, when Anna decided to retire, we kind of took it her role and responsibility, and actually accounts payable is gonna go to somebody else, which opened up a big portion of their job that we kind of had to fill. And so we looked at, we were gonna add some HR stuff to it, but it still wasn't gonna fill the hole that accounts payable opened up. And so I went to the foundation and said, you know, you guys could use some, you know, Megan Conklin, the director, could use some help. But they've been in a place, they've actually had this conversation, go to their meetings, where she would love to have an assistant, but they just don't have there's not enough work right now to hire a full-time assistant. So I said, you guys need an assistant, we need to fill some time, why don't we work together on this? So they're actually gonna buy, the proposals for them to buy 20% of the new Anna's time to then do what the foundation needs them to do. So it's great because now we get a little money back from them, but at the same time, their schedule's full. The foundation gets some additional help, which they're in-house anyway, so it's kind of a win-win for all involved, so.
Any questions on that? All right. 7.08, superintendent evaluation. Closed session is recommended to discuss superintendent performance goals and complete 2025-26 evaluation. Per Iowa Code 21.51A, closed session is appropriate to review or discuss records which are required or authorized by state or federal law to be kept confidential, or to be kept confidential as a condition for that governmental body's possession or continued receipt of federal funds. Do we have a motion to move to closed session?
Motion to move to closed session.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Sandow?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Glad I didn't have the mic on for that part. All right, so at this time, we will move to, or we're moving back in from closed session, so we will move to comments and suggestions. This is the second portion of our meeting where we open the floor to the public for any comments that they may wish to direct to the board. We'll give it a couple minutes here. I thought Bubba was a member of the public coming on to give us a comment there for a second, but, all right, we will move on to action items. 9.01, athletic building security cameras.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the bid from Prime Secured for $54,510.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandow?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.02, middle school parking lot cameras.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the middle school parking lot camera bid from Prime Secured for $58,542.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandow?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.03, Iowa Western Community College 28E agreement.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the 28E agreement with Iowa Western for shared facilities as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandow?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.04, 2026-27 board meeting dates.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the board meeting dates for 2026-27 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandow?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.05, SiAC committee approval.
Mr. President, I'd like to make the motion to approve the School Improvement Advisory Committee as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Sandow?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.06, shared services agreement, Lewis Central Education Foundation.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the shared services agreement with LCEF for an executive administrative agreement as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandow?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.07, superintendent contract renewal.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent contract as presented in closed session.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandow?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Items of interest, future board meetings.
So we just have our meeting on June 1st, regular meeting, and a regular meeting on June 15th. But then we have our SiAC meeting that is gonna change to June 16th at 5:30.
Okay.
Oh, one other thing to point out is we are actually hosting for the Potawatomi County Veterans, we're gonna host the Wall That Heals on our campus over Memorial Day weekend. It actually rolls in on Wednesday, tomorrow, rolls in tomorrow afternoon, and it'll be operational by Friday. And then it's 24 hours a day through Monday, and then they'll take it down next week. So if you get a chance, swing by. It's pretty cool. It's huge. So really awesome that we have an opportunity to host this. So.
And they had a volunteer sign-up genius on Potco site, so, and I was surprised because I looked, because they do have people monitoring it from 1 AM to 5 AM.
They do, yep.
So, full 24-hour shifts, but it looks like our community has really kind of stood up and volunteered for this event, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think
know,
it's-
we had some people nervous, we're leaving the school open 24 hours a day, because we're gonna have, the volunteers are going to be in the black box, entry there. So that way they have access to restrooms and it's air conditioned and so they're like, we're gonna leave that unlocked 24 hours a day, and I said, well, it's open 24 hours a day, so so yeah, we'll be good. But,
Yeah, I think not only is it a good way to, you know, come and pay your respect, I think it's also educational. I believe the trailer doubles as a kind of a classroom
yeah,
to
there's a
learn
huge,
about the war and stuff.
yeah, there's a huge trailer classroom that comes in, yeah.
So very
yeah.
excited to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
All right, with no further items on the agenda, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.